Now, the greatest story never told with Miles and Thrill.
Oh, here we are again, everybody. Welcome to episode 40 of the Greatest Story Never Told podcast. Available on radio.com, but you already knew that because that's how you got here. We're not sure of the opening commercial. Apparently, they are putting one on there. I'm not sure if it's still Astroglide or
I hope it is.
What the deal is, but maybe it's like Deja Vu or Lovers here locally. Wouldn't that be great if we could have like, maybe it's the A-Crop down in Portland. We don't know who's sponsoring this thing, but what we do know is this. If you would just be so kind to make a small donation specifically to the Fisher House here in the Pacific Northwest, go to the Pacific Northwest portion of the Fisher House to give. That way we get it back here locally. But either way, you will become the unofficial sponsor of the Greatest Story Never Told. This comes our way from Buddy Scott Richter, and he says basically, Thrill, here's the $20 you said I owed you. That went to the Fisher House.
Hey, so I don't remember saying that, but I'm glad you paid
Scott's
up.
my appliance guy. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Retired now, living the high life. He's making beer. Gentlemen, Miles, I use that term loosely with you. Thanks a lot there, Thomas. We are messaging you this evening to become your newest unofficial sponsors of the Greatest Story Never Told podcast with a donation of, you're not going to believe this, not 20, not 40, not 50, not 100, not 150, $300.
Wow.
Get out of here, right?
Damn.
To the Fisher House. We are the Bar Tools podcast. We are a relatively new podcast that is currently 29 episodes deep. Trust us, that's a pretty good run. We've been doing this
That's
for 40.
all right. That was 11 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to catch up unless
we are
one of
veterans,
us
friend.
gets hit by a truck or something, because we're not giving up that number. You'll always be 11 back unless you start doing like 2 a night. And
Yeah,
maybe.
I promise you, we will not get more productive.
No. We are 6 tradesmen who talk about our day-to-day lives and our trades. All while having a few cold ones. All of us have been huge fans of the show, The Men's Room Podcast, and all the good stuff you do for the people of the community, the listeners. Thank you so much for what you do, and please stay beautiful. That is from Thomas, Trevor, Max, Cody, Gary, and Frazier. They are the Bar Tools Podcast. P.S. Also, we would love to hear your feedback on the podcast, seeing how you are all more experienced than us. I don't know about that, Thomas.
Well,
but,
we're 11 episodes more experienced.
yeah.
I think we covered that.
We'll tell you why we're better after doing all that.
When you get to episode 40, you will sound this good.
Okay. We're going to talk about the way that things sometimes end up happening here. Sometimes they are very spontaneous. Sometimes we get these ideas at the last second. Just know, like in any other business, most things involve a lot of planning, a lot of organization. And what I'm saying by that is, if we were to do something big, like we're talking about this beer and all these things, we would definitely want to get that on social media and let people know. We have people voting right now at KISW.com for the new beer. By the time you hear this, we will have the results, and we will know then, and we'll have already released that probably Friday before, right? So either way, we have this organization that we attempt to pull off. Now, oftentimes,
sometimes
Steve and I don't work real well in that environment.
And he's not kidding. We get admonished for this. Every year you do an employee review, like a lot of places, and the one thing that I always hear is lack of organization. And attention to detail and everything kind of related to that. And I'm like, look, man, that's just how I am.
Okay, Red Festival will come around. We'll get everything nailed down. We'll be able to make the announcement. We have bands that we're going to bring out. We have a pretty good idea of the entertainment. And then that's it. They basically look at Steve and I and say, hey, man, this is it. We're not doing anything else. Stop with your crazy ideas. Because
don't add anything. Follow this timeline, guys. And that's on. And look,
we'll bust in the door and go, how about juggling monkeys, man? We got a guy with juggling
What
monkeys.
did I tell you? No.
No more ideas.
No
more ideas.
Follow this, guys. Stop it.
So we have this sometimes plan where we might forget to tell people what we're going to do, so we just do it, right? It's a little trick we have. It's not really a trick.
I don't know if you call that a trick. Our boss calls it things like insubordination or
right.
You did not follow my request.
This one goes into the file.
But we understand. Sometimes, look, we're like children. Sometimes there's just something you really want to do because you think that it's a good idea or funny. And the bosses, much like parents, say, hey, this is a bad idea. And not only is it a bad idea, but I'm expressly telling you no.
Sure.
And then at that point, we're like, ooh, when we do this, we can't let them know.
Right. We did this one idea called Stand and Be Counted, all right? And the idea was that each member of the radio show was going to take either, at the time, there was 3 erectile dysfunction drugs on the market. It was Viagra, Cialis, and one more that I cannot
What
remember.
was it?
I was going to say Valtrex, but that's a
No,
herpes
that's
drug.
for a different purpose.
Cialis.
Jesus Christ.
It was
What was it?
Viagra. It was one more. Either way, it's not the popular one, but it basically did the same thing. And then there was going to be a placebo. So the way we worked this is each one of us took one of these pills before we went on the air. I want to say Ben got the placebo. I got the 3-day. I got the weekender. All right.
You got Cialis.
I got
right?
Cialis.
Yes.
You got Viagra.
That's right.
And I want to say Ted got Levitra. Levitra, maybe?
Is that for cholesterol?
I think it's Levitra, and I'm not kidding you. But
Levitra?
I'm pretty sure that's it because it was one for people who had heart issues and couldn't take Viagra. It is Levitra?
Yes. It looks like Levitra is an erectile dysfunction.
I thought that was for cholesterol.
So-
no wonder my cholesterol hasn't changed when I have an erection.
So we just went into the weekend not knowing what we took. It was blind. Just pop it in,
Yeah.
throw it back, man. See what happens. Just, like if you're going to the grocery store, hopefully you don't see a hot woman or anything like that. We kind of played it like that. And I want to say that both Steve and myself did not get laid that weekend.
No, but I had an erection. I was
I
ready
mean,
to go.
But that was just the way it worked out, right? And I didn't know I had one for 3 days or could have had one for 3 days. But because if you just took the Viagra, 12 hours later or whatever, wouldn't necessarily do anything. You know what I mean?
No, I know this.
Okay, so we had a doctor
But the
come
clock
in.
was ticking.
We had a clinical doctor come in. We had a guy explain the differences between the drugs. Dr. Schuster came in and he was like, okay, this one does this one does this one does this. Pretty sure with these dosages, you guys will be fine. We did this test. We came back. Obviously, I think the only person who did get laid was the person who did not take any of the drugs.
Yeah, the one who got a placebo.
Right, exactly.
Got laid.
So, but on this one, and I'm not sure exactly.
But then again, the point of that is we went through the process. That's
through
why we
the
had a doctor
process.
come in. He explained the possible
Correct.
side effects. Don't
Yeah.
do this at home. Blah blah
Right.
blah.
It's
all
clinical.
that stuff.
It's clinical.
Yeah.
It gives it a little bit of a, hey, all right, this is legitimate. Well, this idea was not. There was no doctor for this.
No, this next idea was nothing like that.
And I can't remember how we got on this. It was either the fact that there was the story many years ago about the woman who found out that her either ex-boyfriend or current boyfriend or whatever the deal was, who was also working for her or with her at NASA. I want to say he was at Cape Kennedy or Canaveral, whatever you want to call it, in Florida. She was probably in Houston or someplace like
Yes,
that.
Houston.
Either way, she gets wind of the fact that maybe her ex is dating somebody else.
It was a weird love triangle, but they were all astronauts.
They were all astronauts, and she decides she's going to jump in her car, and she's so pissed off, she gets her stuff, throws in the trunk, whatever she's going to do, like duct tape, drop cloths, who knows. Either way, I think we know, but either way, she wore a Depends undergarment. That way she would never have to pull over on her drive all the way from Houston to Florida.
Because her goal was to kidnap her ex's current
Girlfriend,
lover.
right.
So, yeah, she threw on the Depends and made like record time because, again, she didn't have to stop. And we thought, that's kind of genius. We do the show sometimes, and it's just like, oh, man, we got to get to a commercial break because one of the valves is starting to leak. You know what I mean? And we thought, well, I bet you we could do that, right?
Sure. I mean, basically the idea was, and I can't remember, I think we were having like a discussion of like, when did you almost make it or when did you not make it? And, just talking about the idea of being so scared, maybe you essed your pants or whatever the deal was. But
Have you ever actually been that scared?
And just how uncomfortable like the natural feeling is. Like I always talk about when I was in Mexico at that place and you weren't allowed to put toilet paper down the toilet, so you had to drop it in the waste paper basket, and what a difficult thing that was to do mentally to break that cycle, to be able to drop it into a waste paper basket. That was the hardest thing for me.
Because in the States, we call that a prank.
And as you become an adult, you realize, like, very rarely do you pee your pants. You might have passed out one night and done it, but you weren't conscious of that.
Right.
And typically when you sleep, you go 8 or 9 hours without using the bathroom, and you're perfectly fine.
You can wake up in the middle of the night having to pee, and you make a judgment call like, I'm going back to sleep.
And we go to the bathroom quite a bit, at least once every 2 hours in here, whatever the deal is, depending on how much we drink. And but at this point in time, we decided we were going to do like a Depends challenge.
Yeah.
We were going to buy adult undergarments, and there's no real science behind this, you see.
Well, there's the mental science. Somebody called the show and said, God, because we're kicking around the idea. And somebody called and they said, listen, me and I want to say he was in college, so like his frat brothers, whatever. They tried to do it. They said, look, we put on undergarments and wanted to see if you could pee or poop yourself. And we said, well, how did it go? He said, none of us. You can't. He said, as an adult, I'm telling you, you cannot will yourself to do something that you spent your every day of your life training yourself not to do. And I said, BS. But yeah, we can do this. Yeah. The problem was this. Our boss kind of gets wind of this and says,
well, because we announced it on the air that day.
Right. Well, we didn't do it that day. We're kicking around the idea like, hey. So the boss kind of pulls us in and just says, look, guy, I mean, like, the concept is funny, but you can't do that. You cannot do that on the air. That's ridiculous. And listen, we tried to negotiate for it. And he's like, I hear what you're saying, but listen to me. No. The answer is no. I don't feel like listening to you guys try to defecate or pee yourself during your show. No, absolutely no, no, no. And I want to say what, maybe 3-4 weeks pass, and we get word that the boss is not going to be in the office on a certain day. Right? It's just like a random Tuesday. Whatever day of the week we did it, it's a day that he was not here. So we agreed in advance, all right, let's get these because we might get in trouble, but we'll get in trouble later because he's not here.
Turns out he came in that afternoon, after all.
So we're sitting here. Now we're on the air, and we're openly discussing, hey, man, we got
the Depends on. We've already bought them. They're very comfortable.
They are not very comfortable. They're more comfortable than they look, but they are not very comfortable.
Think of it like a pull-up swimmy for a kid. It's not too much padding. It's not a diaper. But
were you ever not aware that you were wearing it?
No. Oh, God, you know right away.
You're just sitting here the whole show.
Either way, we couldn't do it.
We tried. We're trying to poop ourselves.
The guy was right.
Trying to pee ourselves.
But either way, a hair club comes flying into the studio.
We did not know that he was going to come by the office later. We thought like he was gone for the day. Turns out our intel was not 100% correct. So about the middle of the show, we see him. So we have a glass studio. We see him walking down the hall, and now he does this thing, and I hate.
He's got this hard walk. You know what I mean? Like with this very, very I'm pissed walk.
But then he stands outside of the glass till we go to commercial break. So in my mind, I'm like, well, man, oh man, we should be like F commercials.
Don't worry, we haven't peed yet.
Like, let's just not do it. Right. But we go to commercial break, and now the boss is in the studio, and we have that uncomfortable conversation. And he was very calm about it. He said, I turned on my radio in my car, and I hear my favorite guys on my favorite afternoon show doing this thing that I expressly told them not to do. So I'm like, what show was that? He's like, are you wearing a diaper right now? I am. He's like, have you? And he wanted to know, which was the whole point of doing this.
We can't.
Like, have you pooped or peed yourself? I said, man, honest to God. And you realize you're having this conversation now, and you are wearing a diaper, and you're explaining to your boss, I have not pooped in my pants today, boss.
I'm trying.
But I am giving it a try.
Yeah, it's just impossible to do. Like, I tried to pee myself like 4 or 5 different times. And psychologically, I just couldn't get past the fact that I'm peeing myself as I'm sitting in this chair. And I did have a change clothes. We came in like I had gym clothes or whatever. We were going to be fine. I mean, as far as if it leaked.
Well, the boss said, well, why did you choose to do this today?
Science.
If I told you not to do it. And I said, well, with all the cards on the table, man, because you weren't here. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you about this, right. So he gets kind of pissed and he says, listen, we have a general protocol that we ask you guys to follow. And he's still keeping it together at this point. He's like, that we ask you guys to follow. It's like I'm talking to a grown man in a diaper who I told to try not to S himself. And he's like, I don't know if you're trying to S yourself as we speak. I'm like, a little bit.
Because it's easier when you're standing up.
Yeah, and I'm kind of nervous, right? So if it's going to happen, this would be the time. So finally, he kind of ends with, he goes through his usual spiel, and kind of ends it with something to the effect of, hey, man, next time, when you do something like that, it has to go through the email chain, blah, 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 blah. And when he was done, I said, I'm sorry, man, I didn't know. And that's when he lost his ass and just said, come on, man, how long have we been working together?
I believe his exact quote was, how many times have we had this conversation?
About peeing and pooping in our pants?
How many times have we been
here? I don't remember ever having that conversation.
It was uncomfortable. But in the end, based on our scientific research, it is damn near impossible.
It really is.
Yeah.
And we did it for science.
And you're not trying.
There's episode 4.
You've been listening to The Greatest Story Never Told with Miles and Thrill on radio.com.
Oh, man! A Double Flush production.